12 to 17. Listen to part of a lecture in a geology class.
By now, the role of vegetation in keeping the banks of rivers stable should be pretty clear. Without plants, specifically without their roots to hold the soil around rivers in place, most rivers wouldn't stay on fixed paths. But it's important to note that there are a number of natural events that can alter the shape of a river, such as flooding. For the rest of the class, we're going to look at this more closely. A flood occurs when a river overflows its banks. In other words, the water rises so high that it spills out over the sides. This normally happens when too much water enters the river. How often this occurs is determined by a couple of factors. One is whether a region experiences significant rises in precipitation at different points in the year, like spring or summer. Another is the type of rock and soil found in the land around a river. If this material can absorb a lot of water, well, then floods are less common. If not, the risk of floods is high. So, how do floods affect the shape of a river? Of course, when the water overflows, the river becomes wider. But this is just a temporary change. However, floods can also alter the river system permanently. For example, a river channel can become deeper over time. Does anyone know why this happens?
Well, the water moves more quickly during a flood, right? So maybe maybe it digs out the bottom of the river?
I can see how that would make sense, but, well,
it's not what happens.
In fact, a river channel gets deeper because sediments are deposited around it. You see, whenever a river overflows, it leaves soil and rock on the land beside it. Each time this happens, the land on either side of the river becomes a little higher. These raised areas of land are called levees. In extreme cases, the sides of the river can become significantly higher than the surrounding land, and this means that the river channel is much deeper. Now, do you have a question?
Do the levees ever get high enough to actually prevent flooding?
They can, in fact. Sometimes years can pass without a flood happening. But if there's an unusually large amount of snow or rain one year, well, it's almost as if the levee doesn't exist. The water just goes right over it. In some cases, the force of the moving water can also destroy these natural barriers. Now, if a region regularly experiences such massive floods, well, the appearance of the river can change dramatically. The Jamuna River in Bangladesh is a good example of this phenomenon. I've researched this river system extensively, and it's fascinating. There's always something new to observe. Take a look at this picture. What's the first thing you notice?
It seems like a bunch of individual streams rather than one big river.
Good. That's because repeated flooding has caused many new channels to form. The river floods seasonally. You see, as the excess water moves downstream, it carries large amounts of sediment. This leads to the creation of islands that split up the river into different streams. You should note that these islands aren't necessarily permanent. Some increase in size every year, while others are destroyed by subsequent floods. In addition, the floodwaters can break down the riverbanks, creating new paths for the water to follow. The end result is a complex network of connected waterways.
Now get ready to answer the questions. You may use your notes to help you answer.
12. What is the main topic of the lecture? (13) What are the factors that determine the frequency of floods in a river system? 14. What happens during flooding to cause a river channel to become deeper? Listen again to part of the lecture. Then answer the question.
Do the levees ever get high enough to actually prevent flooding?
They can, in fact. Sometimes years can pass without a flood happening. But if there's an unusually large amount of snow or rain one year, well, it's almost as if the levee doesn't exist. The water just goes right over it.
15. What does the professor mean when she says this?
Well, it's almost as if the levee doesn't exist.
"16. What is the professor's opinion of the Jamuna River? "17. In the lecture, the professor describes several characteristics of the Jamuna River. Indicate whether each of the following is a characteristic.
(18 to 22). Listen to a conversation between a bookstore attendant and a student. Excuse me, do you work here?
Yes. Can I help you with something?
Yes, at least I hope you can.
Well, I'll try to help you in any way I can.
Here's the thing. I need to buy a textbook for Political Science 101, Professor Taylor's class.
I know which textbook you're talking about, since it's a really popular course among freshmen. But we ordered copies for the beginning of the semester, and that was 2 months ago.
Yeah, I realize that it's kind of late in the semester. But I recently lost my book, and I need to replace it right away. Can you please help me find a copy?
Let me check the computer. Introduction to Political Science, right? I'm really sorry, but I'm afraid we don't have any copies of that textbook left.
Oh, no. I was worried about that. I really need that book because final exams are coming up. What can I do to get a copy? Would it be possible to order it through you? It's not like it's gone out of print in the last couple of months, has it? There must be a few copies left.
Actually, we don't order books on an individual basis. However, there is a slight possibility that there are some extras in our storage facility. Let's see. Nope. It looks like the warehouse doesn't have that title listed. And the thing is, it's very unlikely that we'll be getting any more in before the end of the semester. But there are still a couple of other options. First, it's possible that the professor who's in charge of your class may decide to order more textbooks. I'm not sure when or if that's actually going to happen, though. You might want to check with him.
I see.
The other thing you might want to try is, well, there's another bookstore across campus that may have what you're looking for. It's quite a bit smaller than our store, so the selection isn't that big. But since fewer students go there, and your book is fairly common, they might still have copies of it. Again, I can't make promises, but you can try.
Okay, I'll look into that possibility as well.
Lastly, I suggest that you check that website, Used Books Online. It's a community of students and teachers, and they buy and sell used books at really low prices. Like I said, yours is a popular one, so chances are you'll find a used copy.
That looks promising. What's the address of that website?
Here, let me write it down. It's www.usedbooksonline.org. I believe you'll have to make an account first. It's free, of course. You'll need your student ID number to sign up. After you register, you can start buying and selling used books. And if all else fails, you may have to borrow one from a classmate and make copies or something. It's not the most convenient option, but at least you'd have the material.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought of that. Thanks for all your help. Now get ready to answer the questions. You may use your notes to help you answer.
18. Why does the man visit the bookstore?
'Listen again to part of the conversation. Then answer the question. Here's the thing. I need to buy a textbook for Political Science 101, Professor Taylor's class.
I know which textbook you're talking about, since it's a really popular course among freshmen. But we ordered copies for the beginning of the semester, and that was 2 months ago.
19. What does the woman mean when she says this?
And that was 2 months ago.
Twenty. Why does the man need to order the book? 21. What does the woman say about the textbook?
22. The bookstore clerk suggests what the man should do. Indicate whether each of the following is a suggestion.